everybody. Welcome to episode number 16 of the C.R.E.A.M podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're excited for you to come in. If you love this podcast, make sure you share it with your friends or spread it on your favorite social media platform.
Jason, let's talk about Social Security. Inflation is hitting us all in many different ways, but it seems to have eroded the dollar and the value of Social Security as well. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so since 2000, inflation has eroded 40% of all Social Security purchasing power since the year 2000. So back in Social Security, you would need to increase your Social Security by $539 a month to offset the cost of inflation has since the year 2000 on your Social Security payments.
Wow, that's crazy. So people who are counting on Social Security and they think they have a certain number coming to them, that number is actually slipping just because what everything costs and the cost to live these days has gone up so much, huh?
Yeah. Every year you have inflation. The cost of goods and services, it hurts, especially when it comes to seniors, when it comes to healthcare costs, healthcare, food, and home maintenance. People forget how much it costs for home maintenance for a lot of seniors.
Wow, yeah. So you can't just set it and forget it these days. You really need to be active in your investment and your retirement planning, and you can't. You can maybe count on Social Security to augment your retirement, but it's definitely not going to get you there, huh?
No. And the original purpose of Social Security was not to cover you for retirement for 20, 30 years. It was only supposed to be there for a short period of time because your lifespan was very short at that period of time.
Yeah. You wrote about that in the book, right? The average retirement age. And then, people lived on average 4 or 5 years after retirement back when they enacted Social Security.
Yeah, now people are living with. I look at my wife's grandmother. She's 89 years old. Her grandfather just passed away at 94. So that means he was on Social Security for 33 years. So that's a long time. And he probably worked, 40 years was the number of years he probably worked. So he almost broke the number of years he retired compared to the number of years working. So it's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, they're going to have to, as you talk about in the book too, they're going to have to restructure Social Security, but it's such a political poison pill that anyone who brings that up is going to be voted out of office. So it should be pretty interesting what happens.
They're going to fix it in 2030, man, right at the last minute. That's how we run things, last minute.
Yeah.
Just like I used to do my book reports in high school, very last minute.
Well, hopefully Social Security reform gets an A, just like you did on your book reports in school, huh?
Yes, sir.
Jason, now we're going to talk about credit score, which we probably don't pay enough attention to. And now as a lot of interest rates are rising and the cost of servicing debt, like you mentioned, is going up, your credit score is really a great buffer against inflation, against rising costs and paying more on debt than you need to. So there was a national study just released, and they compared the average person with a mediocre credit score, so not even bad, just sort of mediocre, versus someone with a good credit score. And they found that the borrowing costs over their lifetime were were way higher for someone with a mediocre score. They pay way more for their debt. So how much does the credit score actually save you?
A little bit over $45,000. And to be exact, $45,823 is the difference between a good credit score and a mediocre credit score.
Wow. So having a good credit score could actually save you $45,000 over your life as a consumer.
Yeah. Which is huge, especially right now. We have inflation, everybody's talking about it, but there's still tons of money. I walk into my bank, I got some broken in, I got my checkbooks taken. I had to go to 2 of my banks, and they're offering me an introductory 0% interest on a credit card for a year. One was a loan for my business. So there's tons of money out there, especially if you have great credit. There's like you're pre-approved for this and that. So there's tons of money right now out there, and you get a lot of money for cheap, which is crazy. So everybody's talking about a recession, but there's so much cheap money out there. if you have good credit. Banks need to put the money somewhere, and they're willing to give it to people who have good credit, so they know they get their money back.
Yeah, not only do they extend more debt for business, for real estate, for personal loans, financing with low interest rates, but also what you think about is someone could save $45,000 over their life just by having a good credit score. They're not just saving 45,000 because they could do something with that money. There's the opportunity. So if they invested that 45, over time, little at a time, instead of giving it to debt, if they paid off their debt instead of just making payments on their debt. So there's actually a pretty wide gap. So these days, especially, I think to your point, people need to make sure their credit score is as high as possible.
Yeah, think about it. If you got a good credit score, you get a cash back card right now. Here in the Bay Area, you get that cash back card. You use that cash back card, go to Safeway, get that 10, 20 cents percent off or cents off per gallon on the gas you just purchased. Then you get the points back. If you got a points back card, boom, which is 5 points back, you're winning. But you can't do that with bad credit. If you have good credit, you can take advantage of a lot of these things. 10 cents off for buy groceries, are you going to do that? And then you get the 5% on all, or I just saw it 10 cents, or you get what? I forgot how many points a credit card was giving us, crazy, per every gas purchase. So you can get some really good points back by just going ahead and having good credit.
Yeah, that's a great point that you made too, that banks want to lend to people. They need to lend to people. But, it's going to be people with good credit who they're throwing offers at and throwing amazing terms at versus the rest of us who are going to be paying way too high to service their debt if our scores aren't good enough. So that's a great point. Yeah. So one other thing that I should mention too, which is maybe good news to counteract the social media financial advice trend, is that Michigan just became the 14th state in the country to mandate personal finance education. So now we have 14 states that actually in school, they mandate you have some sort of basic financial education.
Kudos to the University of Michigan. A lot of people wish they knew about money and finance, and for them to step it up, allow and teach young people the basics before they walk on these college campuses or turn 18 and get bombarded by credit, debt, and everything else, and you give them enough information and make it mandatory before they can make the proper decisions in life. Kudos to Michigan for that. Yeah. That's big.
That's huge, right? And like you said, exactly. We're learning French history and I don't know what else they teach in school these days. I have no idea, but people don't learn how to balance a checkbook and about what debt is and credit cards and how to buy a house and your credit score. And so, that should be fundamental from elementary school on its correct level and its correct form going forward. But Michigan's number 14, and we know what usually happens with a trend like this is it'll go from 14 to 28 states pretty quick as it catches on.
Yeah, because it's a no bueno for both sides. Red, blue, whatever your political policies are, it makes sense that you want it makes sense that you can't fight or argue why you should not approve this. I won't say it benefits you because I think we want a certain amount of our population and educated so we can take advantage of them.
So what are some hedges against inflation if people now are scared about inflation and the dollar diminishing? They don't want to put their money in the bank. They're not sure what to do or what to invest. What are some safe places to fight inflation actually going forward?
One thing is people are really looking at, I tell people oftentimes, if you have $10,000 or less, you want to just put money away, look at an I bond, or what is called inflationary bond. With that right now, the rate of it is based off of inflationary rate. So last month, you was getting over 8% on your money on a 1-year bond, which is a great place because it's fixed, secure, and guaranteed. So that rises with inflation. Also, you might want to look at companies that has really good dividends, stock dividends that are really fundamentally sound as well. And then traditionally used to be gold, which we're not seeing right now. Mm-hmm. And then energy prices right now looking very good right now because the strong companies were good. Usually most oil companies have a lot of cash. They're getting really good cash flow right now, and they're doing quite well. So
That's great. That's good advice. Definitely, people should come talk to you if they're worried about inflation. If they have some money, what to do with it so it doesn't lose value, 2 or 3 times over the next few years. All right, Jason, we're talking a lot about inflation and how prices are going up and the cost of just living a daily life has really escalated in the US. So I want to put a stat in front of you and see if you could guess around what this number is. There was just a report updated for 2022 about the cost of raising a child in a middle-class home from 0 to 18, fundamentally. So what do you guess that is? How much do you guess it is to raise a child from 0 to 18 in a middle-class home in the US now?
When was the study done?
When was it done?
Yes.
It was done 2017, I think, but they updated it to $2022.
Okay.
So we're talking about today's dollars. And, this is national average, not Bay Area, but national
I would say about 325,000.
You're damn close. 286,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're right there. And I think that doesn't include any education costs or anything like that. So yeah, so it costs almost a quarter, well more than $250,000 to raise a child these days, which is pretty expensive. And we know most people probably spend a whole lot more of that just on clothes and school stuff and the little things, huh?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Clothes, not even clothes, school stuff and outside activities.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to sports and all that.
And these days you can't really say no. Like back in the day, our parents didn't care. They were like, no, we don't have money. You're not doing that. Right. And now there's less, I think, free school sponsored activities and everything is a paid outside activity. Right.
Yeah. What has happened in youth is everybody figure out how to monetize youth sports and activities. So before you might have just a local little league and you pay your $100 and you have a whole season, but now they got travel ball, baseball, travel this, travel that, club this, club that. So everybody figure out how to monetize sports, which is an interesting stat. Is like 80% of kids who households make less than $100,000 a year are not in any sports activities. While 80% of kids who family make over 100,000 household income, this stat probably old, is playing, doing some type of athletics outside of school.
And that's also probably stands true even more when it comes to art, art classes or art activities, when it comes to music, when, those extracurriculars. I bet it's even more profound, the statistics of under and over $100,000.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Raising children is expensive. Buying a condom is pretty cheap. So that's my philosophy, Golden State, they pulled it off against my Celtics, huh? You guys did it.
We did it.
Huh.
Larry Angel, you owe me steak, but we did it.
And Jason, who is your MVP? Especially after what went down at the end of the series in the final game, huh?
Steph, man. You got to give it to Steph, man.
There you go. Always. Jason, now on the C.R.E.A.M podcast, we're going to have one of our favorite parts of each episode, and that is your shout out. So who do you like to give a shout out to today?
Yes, I'd like to give a shout out to Coach Brian Mouton with St. Mary's High School baseball team. They won the regional area and lost right before they went to state, but they went farther than any other team in the Bay Area at the Division IV level. So definitely want to give a shout out to Brian Mouton and the St. Mary's boys baseball team. Congratulations on winning regionals. Hey everybody, I have Tanasha Brown with Interior Real Estate, a really good friend, a really good expert when it comes to the residential real estate market. I know a lot's happening in the world. So I wanted to have her on the C.R.E.A.M podcast to tell us what is happening in the residential real estate market.
A lot. We are definitely seeing a shift in the market. I mean, especially after the rise in interest rates that have occurred so quickly. And in addition to that, some of the crazy overbidding that has taken place over the last 6 months has been insane. So in honesty, I actually welcome this rise in the interest rates so that we can kind of stabilize the market out there in the residential sector. I think I was telling you last month in Berkeley, there was a home listed for 1.795. I offered 2.1. I was one of 27 offers, and I'm used to winning. I did not win that bid. Of the 27 offers, I ranked in the bottom 4. And not only that, the person that won the bid paid $4,035,000, and they paid cash. That's what's going on out there in this crazy market. So I think now with the rise in the interest rates, things are definitely going to shift probably more towards buyers at this point.
With the shift in interest rates, what can buyers do to prepare for this shift that's happening?
Definitely stay in touch with your loan officer, get pre-approved, know your buying power. That has not changed, but you want to be cash heavy. You can be very strategic as you start to go after properties now. Look at before sellers were able to sell a home in 2 days and 3 days. That's changing. We're seeing properties sit on the market for 2 weeks, which is normal, right? But we've been experiencing abnormal market conditions. And so I think buyers positioning yourself with your cash, making sure that you're not adding any more debt to yourself, and really doing that comparison shopping as far as, if you're renting, does it make sense right now for you to make this shift? With the rise in the interest rates, you definitely have qualified for less than if you had got pre-approved 4 or 5 months ago. But it's not that big of a significant difference, but definitely be creative in your offer process with some of these sellers. Some of these sellers already bought another property out of state and they have to sell. Those are the ones that I look for.
And so when we're talking about sellers, what can sellers do during this period of time if they're thinking about selling property?
Well, they need to be realistic. It is not going to be 25 offers like it was before. Just kind of accept that this is where we are. This is more realistic. In addition, you're going to have those sellers have to realize these buyers. Appraisers are going to tighten up on their values because you're seeing the decline in the market, and they're going to base it on that 90 to 120 day out. So just for the sellers, you're still going to be able to sell, because one thing that has not changed is the demand for home ownership. We still do not have enough inventory to satisfy all of the buyers that are out there looking. So I still think it's a win-win, whether you're a buyer or a seller, is just being able to be in that position where you're going to accept the reality of you're probably not going to sell this one for 300, 400,000 over the list. Right. And so, especially for our entry buyers, right, they can't overbid like that. And so for the seller, look for better terms, maybe negotiate free rent back because maybe the new home that you had planned to purchase, you no longer qualify. Now you have to shift to a lower price point and able to be able to shift into that newer property. Right. So just being realistic about your next move.
So it sounds like on both ends, everybody has to learn how to be a little bit more flexible than what before, where a seller can just sit back, get 30 offers 6 months ago. Now it's shifted where you have to be a little bit more flexible based off the
market. Absolutely. Because right now we're just seeing 3 offers, 4 offers, and then sellers are like, I don't want to take that offer. Let's keep waiting for something bigger. No, you should have taken that offer, right? Because that window for the sellers has closed.
Are you saying buyers being a lot more pickier when they're looking at properties now as well and looking for more buybacks or anything?
Yeah, I think, of course, everybody's looking for everything in that want and need list. And I think buyers have to pay attention to making sure that they're getting their needs satisfied first and then going after the things they want. Make a list and be realistic even from that perspective, right?
Yeah. Another question you got me thinking about it. I know we're going off topic. What price point do you see that's bringing the most opportunities for buyers right now? Is it more in the luxury market? Is more the middle of the road, lower? Where do you see the most opportunities at right now?
I'm seeing the most opportunities anything below 700,000 right now here in California is probably the most opportunity. And what's funny is that we always, in a normal market, we always see more inventory out there when you were asking about buyers being more picky. I just think now buyers are having more options, right? So before, for example, in San Jose, a property I put on at the time that we ran numbers and we were preparing the home to go on market, there were only 3 homes on the market. We were the only 1-story house on the market. But by the time we went to market and did our first open house, 2 weeks later, there were 12 homes that had just come on the market. So now that changed the dynamics of where we were. So where we thought we were going to get an offer $200,000 above, we had to readjust and say, okay, we just need a good offer because they had already purchased another property in Nevada, right? And so I think just watching that shift, it's been there all the time. We've always known the Feds were going to go up on the interest rates, but now we're starting to see that impact on the market. So the buyers do have a lot more to pick from, so they can be a little more picky about where they're going to place an offer.
Everybody, thank you again for watching episode number 16 of the C.R.E.A.M podcast. We want to thank you guys. You guys could do anything else, but you guys decide to listen to the C.R.E.A.M podcast. I appreciate it. If you got some value from this, please share it with your friends and families as we're trying to increase our subscription levels. Once again, thank you for watching and listening to C.R.E.A.M.